Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Insurance Times MGA webinar, Navigating Excellence, a deep dive into the 2024 MGA ratings. My name is Savan Shah, and I am Head of Research for Insurance Times, and I would like to thank everyone who is tuning in today. Before I introduce today's panel, I would like to invite everyone watching today to please feel free to submit your questions, and towards the end and throughout the webinar today, we will answer as many questions as you may have. Today, I'm pleased to have on the panel Mike Keating, CEO of the MGAA, Tim Jones, Director of MPR Underwriting, and Karen Jackman, Sales Director of Geo Underwriting. So a little bit about the panel that are joining us today. Mike Keating, CEO of Managing General Agents Association, the MGAA, as also known, has 40 years of experience in the industry, and Mike's career has included time at insurers, brokers, and MGAs in both the commercial and personal lines market. He has held executive positions at AXA, Midas, UK General, and most recently InsurTech startup Q Claims, before becoming CEO at the MGAA in September 2020. We are also joined today by Tim Jones, Director of MPR Underwriting. Tim has over 20 years of experience in financial lines insurance with specialisms in professional indemnity and cyber. Tim has a wealth of regional insurance experience and industry knowledge and is a director at MPR Underwriting. MPR is a financial lines underwriting specialist and a chartered insurance underwriting agent, putting accessible, flexible underwriting alongside a high quality service. And Tim has been influential and in the recent achievements of MPR achieving 4 consecutive 5-star ratings in the Insurance Times MGA broker survey. So, and last but not least, we are also joined by Karen Jackman, Sales Director of Geo Underwriting. Karen joined Ardonna in July 2023 as Sales Director at Geo Commercial Lines. Karen was previously Director of Broker Distribution, Propositions and Marketing at Aviva, and in that time delivered double-digit growth and strong returns to the business. Karen has 30 years of experience within the insurance sector and has held several different roles, including underwriting, strategy, and planning and business development. Karen is also a chartered insurer, a Chartered Insurance Council member, and past president of the Perth and Dundee Local Insurance Institute. So before we begin diving into some of the trends and topics to emerge from the MGA survey, just like to kind of start off with and ask you all, so Mike, how has the kind of start been to 2024 for you and the MGA, and what have been your kind of some of your key goals for Q1?
Good morning, everybody. The 40 years experience is slightly scary, Sav, so perhaps you can take that off the next introduction, but thank you very much. So interestingly, from an association perspective, we actually are entering our second quarter. So our financial year runs from September to August. And one of the key things for us is that we undertook comprehensive membership research in the summer of 2023, which really then directed members to direct us in terms of our financial investment and also where our resource and our priorities need to be aimed at. And one of the key themes coming through from that, from an association membership perspective, was more investment into our knowledge and insight program, and that's sort of narrowing the gap and the knowledge gap between insurers and our members. And we've covered things from technical underwriting and technical claims. We'll also be introducing something around operational efficiency, which again is extremely important to sort of MGAs. Secondly, it's more information around regulation. I'm sure we'll touch on that sort of as we go through the conversation with my colleagues on the panel from that perspective. And thirdly, we're all guns blazing in terms of our first flagship event for 2024, which is our broker exchange on the 5th of March at St Paul's, ETC venue St Paul's, where we bring together over 75 of our MGA members who exhibit, and we invite the UK and Ireland broker community. Always a fantastic event, and all the things we'll talk about over the next hour are things which all like to be talked about at that event as well. So lots going on.
Fantastic, Mike. And yeah, no, we're myself and everyone at Insurance Times are very pleased to support the Broker Exchange event in London on March the 5th. And just in kind of bit of information for everyone's watching, Mike, everyone is still able to kind of register. How would they go about that?
So they can register on sort of the website. It's obviously a free entry for all brokers from that perspective. So either contact me or my team in terms of registration, and we'll be delighted to get your name down and get your badge ready.
Fantastic. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic event as ever. And Tim, how has the kind of start been for you for 2024, and how is things at MPR? And what have been some of the kind of key goals you guys have been working on in the first quarter?
Yeah, thanks, Sav. Yeah, morning, everybody. Thanks for having us on this webinar. Start of the year has been really strong for us. It's always an interesting one post-Christmas and sort of post-holiday season, but we had a lot of good traction throughout that period. We picked up some decent growth at the start of the year. One of the areas we focused on as well, which we might touch on later in the webinar, around I guess some of the aspects of how MGAs operate. We've put a lot of content out recently, so we've put some decent claims examples, top 5 tips on cyber insurance. We've got new FI products coming out, so we're taking the opportunity. Can be a little bit quieter sometimes in January, so we're taking opportunities to get some good content out for our brokers and share that content and knowledge with them. So yeah, goal-wise, yeah, it's kind of doing more of what we do, really. We're kind of happy with the way things are going, happy with the results. Teams are all really happy and enjoying the sort of market that we're in. It does chop and change a little bit in financial lines on different products. But yeah, we have the flexibility to cope with that and hit the numbers we need to hit, but at the same time enjoy what we're doing and pass that enjoyment and experience on to our sort of broker partners.
Good to hear. Good to hear. And and Karen, how has the start been for you, and how things at Geo? What other things have you been kind of working on in the first kind of month and a bit of the year?
Thank you, and thanks very much for inviting me. So I obviously just joined in July, and it's certainly joined at a very exciting time for the business. So in 2023, it was very much about simplifying and stabilising our business, and we're really focused on our 6 key specialisms now. We've done a lot of investment in terms of our people, and therefore that's allowed us to start January really strongly. We've still got lots of plans ahead, having that new structure in place, having a very clear strategy as well, and from that simplification of the business, we know where we're headed. So we've got great ambitions ahead, and so far it's got off very well.
Fantastic. That's really good to hear. And I thought before we kind of jump into some of the insights and trends that we found in the annual MGA survey, I thought it'd be worth kind of telling everyone who's joining us today a little bit about the kind of MGA survey and the kind of overall results. So so this is the 4th year that Insurance Times has conducted the MGA survey, and we look to investigate brokers' opinions and levels of satisfaction with the services they receive from their MGA partners. The MGA survey was open to UK brokers throughout June and August of 2023, and brokers across the UK were asked to identify and rate the MGAs that they have regularly placed business with during the past 12 months. 1,850 brokers across the country took part, and we had a fantastic response from brokers. So a big thank you to all the brokers that were able to kind of contribute their time and put their voices forward. It really is a really great testament of how the MGA kind of market and the MGA survey kind of continues to grow kind of every year. More and more brokers are kind of taking part, which is great to see. So in terms of the survey of course aimed to investigate the service provided it also kind of explored kind of product reviews, the trading support provided by MGAs, the claim service, how accessible decision makers are at each MGA, the specialisms that brokers want. In addition, the survey also kind of explored brokers' perspectives on a range of areas. What, for example, what would encourage further business from brokers, the concerns for the year ahead, many concerns for capacity arrangements, the future role of MGAs, and what kind of additional material would brokers want from their MGA partners. And furthermore, we wanted to really discover, how much kind of MGAs form a kind of strategic part of the overall placement strategy, how important price was to the overall MGA offering, and also what is the kind of most important aspect of good service to brokers, and what they felt, what they valued the most from the MGA partners. And of course, we also discovered how important underlying capacity arrangements are, and some of the concerns brokers had for the year ahead. So before we jump into some of the kind of key insights that we found this year, of course, we have the full MGA report available, and the breakdown of the overall star ratings this year on the Insurance Times research page and ratings page. So please do visit that to see the full analysis and breakdown of all the kind of results. But just to kind of give a kind of reminder of this year's kind of results. So we had a number of kind of MGAs who attained the maximum kind of 5-star rating. So we had Geo Underwriting achieve 5 stars after achieving 2 stars last year. We had MPR Underwriting achieve 5 stars for the 4th year in a row. We had Renovation Underwriting achieve 5 stars. We had Lorega achieve 5 stars as well for the 4th consecutive year. We also had KGM Underwriting, DOA Underwriting, Nexus Underwriting, and Manchester Underwriting achieve a 5-star rating. In terms of those MGAs that achieved a 4-star rating, so we had Prestige Underwriting achieve a 4-star rating, Chapman and Stacey, Penn Underwriting, Camberford Underwriting, NBS Underwriting, Q Underwriting, Marker Study, CFC Underwriting, Plum Underwriting, and Geo Underwriting achieve an overall 4-star rating. And we also had a number of brokers who achieved an overall 3-star underwriting rating, which was Commercial Express, iPrism Underwriting, Jenston, Dual, Accelerate Underwriting, Touchstone Underwriting, and Aqueous Underwriting. And unfortunately, Eaton Gate Underwriting achieved lost a star year on year and achieved an overall 4-star rating. 1-star rating this year. So there are many insights to jump into, but I'd like to begin with a question that we asked brokers. And I think this really shows, how the MGA market kind of keeps going from strength to strength, and is a real testament to the growth we're seeing kind of each year with the amount of business being placed through kind of MGAs. So one of the questions that we asked brokers is, do MGAs form a strategic part of your overall placement strategy, or are they, a market of last resort? And, we found that 86% of all the brokers that took part in the survey felt that they are part of an overall kind of placement strategy. And furthermore, we wanted to ask, do the brokers, so over 1,800 brokers that took part, do they think they will be working more with MGAs in the next kind of 5 years? And overwhelmingly, 82% of brokers felt that they will be kind of working far more with MGAs going forward. And in terms of, of course, we asked brokers who took part, are MGAs now a very viable alternative to the big insurers? And 81% of the brokers that took part agreed or strongly agreed that MGAs are definitely a very viable alternative. So yeah, Mike, you work very closely with many MGAs up and down the country. Are you kind of witnessing more and more business coming towards MGA's way?
Absolutely. So if I share some numbers, we as an association have currently 215 MGA members in the UK and Ireland. They underwrite in excess of 350 product lines, and they also place in excess of £10 billion into the UK and Irish market. So that is an increasing share of wallet from brokers. Brokers, do a fantastic job in terms of looking after their clients and ensure that they're placed with the right markets. MGAs, if you go back a number of years, would have been seen, well, what is this strange community in a corner? Fundamentally, they are now part of the fabric of brokers' placing strategy, and that's borne out by this survey. And frankly, I can only see a continuing tailwind where MGAs will continue to innovate, continue to provide a level of service which is unparalleled elsewhere, and they will continue to take a bigger share of brokers' wallet.
And Karen, would you kind of agree with that testament? Are you witnessing similar kind of patterns at Geo Underwriting? And how are you kind of managing the kind of growth kind of year on year with more and more business coming your way?
So firstly, those statistics are really encouraging because we do believe that the MGA market has a solution for our brokers. We're very much focused on our specialism in the service. We could affectionately call it our SES strategy. But being very focused on the expertise and the value that we can bring to brokers, and that's across all types of brokers, from those that are very deep rooted in their specialisms right across to those individual brokers where maybe only have a handful of cases that they need a bit more help and support to get those cases over the line so that they can satisfy all their client needs. So we definitely think there's a market for MGAs as long as they can be focused on the value they add and their expertise, but also providing that right service, because number one thing is get your service right, isn't it? And be there when brokers need you.
Thank you. And Tim, and in terms of the kind of year-on-year growth at MPR Underwriting, are you witnessing more and more kind of brokers that you're kind of continuing to work with every year, and what's the kind of appetite of our brokers coming your way?
Yeah, thanks. There is a change. We started 7 years ago, so 7 years ago there might have been a thought process that MGAs are still a bit of a trend or a more fragile option, I guess, in that sense. But I think that having a track record, having the increase, as Mike suggested, in the amount of business placed by our MGAs, and again, just sort of touching on that service excellence, you've got to deliver what you say you're going to deliver. The accessibility to brokers being able to reach key decision makers, key underwriters who have the authority to make those decisions. So I think you're seeing that borne out, in the results from the survey as well. Is those that are able to provide that, brokers will always see value in that. I think MGAs come in lots of different shapes and sizes, and I think there's plenty of kind of gaps and solutions that can be found within the insurance world. So I think we're definitely seeing those sort of niche products, levels of experience coming through. I also think that there's a huge attraction to talent towards MGAs as well. I think we might touch upon that. The operational model, perhaps a bit of the corporate sort of brain fade around some people that have a huge amount of experience, but want to be able to use that experience in a more direct and flexible way. So yeah, multiple things, but generally speaking, a huge not only increase in MGA business, but confidence, I think, within the insurance sector around the MGA model. And as I say, that's borne out from some of the results that you're seeing in some of the business that's now being placed, and confidence from the broking community.
Yeah, and you touched on something that is a good kind of segue into what I wanted to kind of discuss now in terms of the feedback that we get from brokers, not only in the kind of MGA survey, but also in in our kind of annual kind of e-trading survey that's open at the moment currently, but also in our kind of commercial line survey and personal line survey. It's really about that. Of course, the brokers would want access to those key decision makers, and one thing that has definitely been a trend over the time that I've worked at Insurance Times is seeing kind of key relationships breaking down over the years, and with a maybe kind of a high turnover of talent, where for many years there's been a good kind of relationship with someone, and of course maybe that person has changed jobs. So in terms of keeping that talent there who really understands the client's needs, what kind of approach do you kind of have for maintaining that kind of ongoing relationship and building that real understanding between the broker and yourselves?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think that's a good point. I think there's probably more stability in the MGA model than people give credit for. I think the company market, we perhaps see, particularly with changing market cycles, a bit more turbulence of both products and certainly people. And that's a key thing that a lot of brokers want to see, that sort of either continuity of underwriting staff for multiple years when they're placing business, and that stability they like to see as well. I think that's crucially important. That is something that we've done, and we're lucky to have that. We've got a great team. We've been going 7 years. We've got the same guys with us. The brokers that do business with us 1 year are going to likely deal with the same people the next year. And I think, again, in terms of attracting talent, it's a really nice proposition to be part of. I think the staff really invest in a lot more of what the MGA is about, the culture, the process, and take more pride in that, I would say. I'm going to say that because obviously we're running an MGA. But certainly having been in the sort of corporate world, I think, coming back to that sort of enjoyment level, I think. And I think if people enjoy what they do and they're passionate about what they do, that will be borne out in the services and in the longevity of those staff to continue to provide that.
Yeah, and Mike, in terms of what your kind of conversations with MGAs kind of throughout the year, and of course many conversations that you have with brokers, and in terms of kind of retaining that talent that MGAs have, and then one of the, of course, the key reasons that lots of brokers want to work with MGAs is that that access to decision makers, that the specialism that they provide. How can the MGA market kind of continue to retain that talent and really kind of grow that area kind of year on year to kind of ensure those relationships are ongoing for kind of many years ahead?
Well, I think Tim sort of covered that quite well. I suppose the observations I would have, sort of talking to our members, is that without doubt, you look at the corporate world, their training programs for their staff are absolutely fantastic. And I think any of us who've actually worked for a large organisation would probably sort of testify to that. And obviously Karen recently sort of left Aviva, so she would know in terms of that. I think the bit which I would just add to Tim's piece is that what I do hear and what I find is that certainly from the underwriting community is that innovative underwriters in the corporate world are feeling as if they're caught in a little bit of a cage, and they want to be able to express themselves. They want to be able to use their experience and skill set at the front line and take great pleasure and pride in actually working out solutions with brokers, and they've got those decisions. I feel at times, and again, it's just the nature of very large organisations, is that agility, innovation, to create a program which is designed for that broker's client can actually be slightly stifled in terms of those big organisations, which actually is leading to that talent sort of moving from insurers into the MGA world, because a lot of it's around cause and effect. The fact that once they hit an MGA, which is a small organisation, but quite rightly is there to deliver a return to its capital provider, then these underwriting communities are basically they feel sort of that they've got the authority and the support from their management to actually underwrite and do what they've invested their career into doing. And I think MGAs will always retain that entrepreneurship and that agility. And I think that's why there will always be an attractive spot for underwriters in particular to actually land.
Yeah, yeah, that's very, very interesting. And yeah, and Karen, in terms of work that goes on at Geo Underwriting, and of course, many specialisms that you guys offer, how do you kind of maintain those ongoing kind of relationships? Because, of course, some of these areas that Geo offer, are, you have to have very kind of high expertise in these areas. And, if there are people in different kind of roles for a long period of time, then of course to maintain that talent, how do you go about that?
So I think Mike hit it on the head. It's encouraging your teams to have care and curiosity, isn't it? Understand the needs of the client. But in terms of our infrastructure, it's all about progression. We've got an apprenticeship program, and making sure that we're helping to enable the stars of the future and the underwriters of the future. So investment across the business. We have brought in quite a number of people with talent in some of the specialisms. We've got new heads of across each specialism. We've got a new trading director in place as well. So making sure that we have that, new knowledge, but also we have a massive talent of individuals within the business, and making sure that that talent and knowledge and expertise is shared within the business. So that's something that we actively do. And obviously we've got the wider group as well, where we can, have that extra sort of pool of talent.
Fantastic. That's great to hear. And we actually have our kind of first question for Mike, actually. And we have a gentleman named Jeff who would like to ask you, in the event in March, how can brokers who are currently deploying the use of many MGAs get closer both to an MGA and the individual MGAs?
What for the March event? Is that the
Yes.
Is that the specific? Okay, so the way the March event is organised is that we have over 70 of our MGA members who will actually, have different product lines, representing a whole range of product lines. They will be exhibiting at the ETC centres. So as they're exhibiting effectively from 8:30 registration with some breakfast, they'll be able to walk around the exhibiting floor, and they'll be able to have as many conversations as they can get up to sort of lunchtime. They'll be able to hopefully sort of connect with people they may have dealt with in the past, but just as importantly, sort of have conversations with MGAA members who are specialism in certain product lines, and be able to sort of arrange either a follow-up sort of meeting post that. So it's a great opportunity to explore the MGA world, and certainly on behalf of their clients.
Okay, great. And what about for those kind of not kind of attending the event? Is there ways of brokers connecting with the MGAs as well?
Yeah, absolutely. We as an association are doing a lot this year in terms of our broker engagement strategy. So if brokers, on this particular webinar, are struggling or have some challenges in terms of placement of risks, then they can either go onto our website and then have a look up in terms of MGAs by product who actually may be able to meet their needs, or they can contact me or any of our team, and we'll be able to direct them to a number of our members who should be able to help.
Okay, fantastic. Good to hear. Yeah, so the kind of next area that I wanted to kind of explore in a little bit more detail was, what do brokers kind of value the most in terms of good service to them? And what we found was that when we put the question to brokers, what is the most important aspect of good service to brokers? We found that 43% felt that expert relationships was an important aspect. 36% felt that simple ease and access and usage, and also 22% felt that clear service level agreements was a very kind of important aspect to brokers. And then when we also asked brokers, what do they value most in an MGA, and we asked them to kind of select the kind of and the most important factor to them. So of course, service came up as 41% selected service as the most valuable aspect, most important factor. Specialism came up there very high with 34% as well. Exclusive capacity access, 90% of brokers felt that was most valuable to them, and earnings and other aspects also were in the mix. Tim, in terms of what some of the reasons why brokers work with kind of MPR kind of going forward, are you kind of witnessing these areas being something that's very kind of important to brokers, and how are you kind of continuing to make sure as MPR kind of grows as well, that areas such as expert relationships, simple ease of access, and specialism are really kind of that the service standards that you've set, and of course achieving 5 stars in the survey for the fourth year in a row. How do you kind of go about kind of maintaining those kind of excellent service standards?
Yeah, we've set it up from day one, really. As I say, we set up 7 years ago. I think one of the areas we felt was declining a little bit, particularly in the UK regional space where we operate, was perhaps a lack of direct underwriter access and underwriting service. I think a lot of automation, commoditization, sales was taken over a little bit more than the underwriting. So we set up with an idea 7 years ago. A little bit tougher when we set up because it was a softer market, and there were a lot of mouths to feed, but we had an idea that we stuck with, and at the heart of that really is service excellence and accessibility to people, and by people I mean sort of quality underwriters who are authorized, they know what they're doing, they're going to come back quickly, and we haven't spread ourselves too thin. I think that's important. There's always a desire to grow, but we want to stay true to our sort of values and true to our supportive brokers. So I mean, look, we're very accessible. That's a kind of bread and butter to us of what we do. We've got there's 13 of us now at MPR, and everybody's got a direct line, everyone's got a mobile number, it's very transparent, contact sheets are shared readily, product information is there, it's hugely transparent in terms of what we do. We share a lot of knowledge, so I think that really helps. We've got about 80 different articles on our website around financial lines insurance. I think the other piece you touched upon there, the capacity piece as well, that's hugely important. You might come onto that in detail a bit later based upon some of the broker survey comments. But you've got to be very happy to talk freely and promote your capacity, keep it fairly transparent. Having that financial security there is incredibly important. And there's a mutual relationship as well. Having sort of longer standing capacity arrangements gives that confidence, I think, to the broker community, where they know that we're doing a good job for our capacity, and we're going to be in it for the longer term. So yeah, all those bits together, I think, and when you package that together, the simple things, I think, but the execution of those simple things is the key element.
Yeah, and in terms of Karen, so in terms of course, there's lots of areas there that brokers are really value, kind of in the service kind of proposition that MGAs offer. What is the kind of key aspect of the service proposition that Geo is kind of really kind of focusing on kind of in the year ahead?
So firstly, I think it's really important to listen to your brokers. So taking part in a survey, you get the feedback, and it was great to see that a lot of the things that were being fed back to us. So we were delighted to increase our star rating from 3 to 4, but we are behind the trailblazers of Renovation and Lorega, who have retained a 5-star rating in this year. And as part of the wider Geo, understanding what our service level agreements are and given that consistency across the board, so any broker that touches any part of Geo will get a consistent service. But I also think the relationship, this is a people business, so having strong relationships with your brokers, really getting to the root to understand their client needs, that's the heart of our proposition. Being there, answering the phone quickly and doing what we're asked to be done. I do believe that even when it's a no, a quick no is essential.
Yeah.
So that's the key things for us.
Okay, great, fantastic. And Mike, I know of course, you um, work with so many kind of MGAs across the board. Is there a particular area that you would like to see a greater focus on in the year ahead? And of course, there's many fantastic things that MGAs do, but is there something that you're particularly keen on for MGAs to kind of concentrate on in the year ahead?
I think the key for MGAs, and it's not for me to tell them, is that I don't think they can afford any level of complacency. I think if you just look at the discussion we just had as a panel, sharing with the people on the webinar, if you just go back a step, MGAs were already getting a larger share of wallet before COVID. Okay. Once COVID hit, MGAs did not miss a heartbeat in terms of their delivery and their ability to meet brokers' needs in obviously was an extremely challenging time. And then coming out of COVID, and again, this is really reflected in some of the broker comments in your survey, there is still a high level of frustration that MGAs continue to increase their share of wallet. They continue to have deeper relationships with brokers, and there's clear frustration from brokers in that survey that you look at the wider, and it's called a wider market, that some staff are still not back in the office, still struggling to get access to decision makers. So I think it's really important here that sort of MGAs, whilst without a doubt they provide a level of underwriting expertise and specialism, which is really part of the DNA of MGAs, is that even those MGAs which are dealing, let's call it, in more sort of vanilla type products, they are being extremely successful because what they're providing is exactly what Tim articulated. They're providing access to decision makers and a level of service which the brokers have absolute confidence that they can actually go back to their client and say, I will get renewal terms, I will have a new business quotation for you. And I think there's clearly from the survey, there isn't that confidence elsewhere. So, for MGAs to continue doing what they're doing, retain their entrepreneurship, talk to their brokers about new products, because speed to market for MGAs on new products is, again, fantastic. And they'll continue to be successful where they are now.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very kind of interesting topic, and of course, lots of as the performance rises of MGAs kind of year on year. Not only in the research that we do at Insurance Times, but in other ways of analyzing service propositions. The expectations are, of course, rising as well. And one of the other kind of areas that was quite talked about at quite great lengths in the survey by brokers was the kind of longevity and stability of capacity arrangements. And we found that we asked the question to brokers, how important is the underlying capacity arrangements of an MGA? And 69% felt it was very or extremely important, and lots of feedback was given as well for many kind of capacity arrangements that are kind of occurring. So just to kind of touch on some of the comments that were put forward by brokers about the kind of capacity arrangements. So we had a number of we had a broker that said where there is a kind of change of capacity, you always wonder why. Not sure if there is an underlying issue with profitability of the book, which could end up having no capacity at all. Capacity needs to be provided by A-rated provider, ideally in today's market. It's important that MGA's underlying insurers is A star rated. There's one broker said, we need to be assured that capacity is not changing on a regular basis, and there is that longevity, and a number of kind of MGA kind of contracts where the capacity remains stable and is well rated. Many kind of concerns, of course, as well with non-UK regulated insurers, and of course, a number of comments were kind of put forward. So one particular broker felt that Eatongate continues to keep changing their providers, and each time their appetite and capacity reduces. Another broker felt that MGAs with accelerant capacity, as it is across a number of MGAs, and they all decline and write different things, and the premiums on the risk can be so different. So guys, what's your opinion on this area? So of course, it's a very important area to brokers year on year. And what's your approach to the underlying capacity arrangements? And are you hearing these concerns from brokers? And how do you go about reassuring brokers that you have the stable long-term arrangements in place?
Yeah, I'm happy to pick that up. So I mean, I think people remember how the MGA model operates, and essentially it's from a combination of what the capacity provider, normally an insurer, needs, which is access to good quality business, and then obviously what the brokers who are placing that business require, which is, as you said before, the sort of accessibility, service, innovation around products. So there's an aligned interest there between capacity provider and MGA, and I think it's important that that's recognised. So, brokers need to have the comfort on what sits behind there from a capacity point of view, the security of that capacity, and having stable capacity or longer term deals gives that confidence to the broker when they're discussing renewal terms and future deals with their clients. So, yeah, that sort of aligned interest is incredibly important, I think. I think if there is a change of capacity, I think that should be sort of put front and center why it's happened. They're quite right to think, like I say, if there's aligned interest and then there's a change, what's brought about that change? Is it book performance? Is that going to mean that brokers' risks are going to be treated differently come renewal? So it's incredibly important. I mean, I wouldn't comment on anybody's particular capacity that they have, but I think given the sort of turbulent times we've had around changing market conditions, and I'm talking sort of financial lines here and the sort of soft and harder market, and then as Mike alluded to, through COVID as well, and changing models around how capacity was deployed, there was probably quite a significant amount of change a couple of years ago or 3 years ago compared to where we are now, which is a little bit more stable. But it's absolutely right to be flagged in the survey. I mean, without the capacity, there is no MGA. So I mean, it has to be that aligned interest. It has to be important, and there has to be a huge emphasis, I think, from the MGA in question to articulate that capacity and what it looks like, and the stability of it as well.
Yeah, Mike or Karen, do you have any thoughts about this? And of course, it's a concern that we see continuously in the MGA survey, where not enough information is given, or there's been some change in circumstances, or the capacity is not A-star rated, A+ rated. What are you seeing, and how can MGAs go about ensuring this concern that many brokers have?
So I think we have, if that's feedback we're getting, we have to be more transparent around that. I know certainly within Geo, it's all about the longevity of our capacity. We have a trusted and respected relationship with our capacity providers, and that's something that is top of our agenda. In terms of providing the right offer and cover for the client, it's very much about making sure that we have that stability in our capacity as well. But also, we have lots of formal governance and oversight in place to make sure that that capacity is protected, but also we're doing the right thing for the client. So I think probably the key message from what I'm hearing is just being more transparent. Having confidence in what we have.
Okay.
I'd agree with everything which sort of Tim and Karen said. I think there's a number of moving parts in this. Okay, so first and foremost, sometimes you'll get capital which has a complete change of strategy, and you can have very good underwriting returns, but the group CEO may say, well, actually, we want to bring all underwriting in-house and we don't want to deploy it. Okay, that's fine. So it's not always necessarily a change of capacity is driven by poor performing portfolios. So I think it's really important that brokers recognise that's not the default, because there are changes of strategy, and you've only got to look in 2023 for a number of organisations who decided to step away from MGA/DA business because that didn't fit their sort of particular model. I think I couldn't underscore more the comment around transparency. I think that is extremely important because I think that gives stability on both sides. But I think also the conversation with your current capacity also needs to be very sort of honest and upfront. And that has to drive to, in terms of the agreement on whatever the termination clause is, and in terms of what time, how long that termination clause is. Because without doubt, one of the challenges for all MGAs with capital now is the speed of onboarding. And that's quite right, because when you look at from an insurer who's providing capital, the number of departments in that organisation who clearly have a stake in terms of the business is very wide. You'd have legal, compliance, marketing, the list could go on. And all of those people need to sort of align themselves and agree, yes, we want to deploy capital to this MGA, but that actually, increases the onboarding piece. So the conversation with capital, as well as with brokers, has to be transparent, and certainly with capital to recognise that if there is a change in strategy, or if actually that the performance, is not where both parties wants it to be, that the time has to be allowed actually for the MGA to find alternative capital and to be able to onboard. And not actually to sort of basically bring shutters down, which then provides the MGA with a reputational issue, and more importantly, brokers with a real problem in terms of where they're going to place their client's business sort of elsewhere. So this transparency piece, and actually talking both to your broker distribution as well as your capital in terms of in the event that may happen, and of course no party wants that to happen because you want to deliver consistent underwriting results, I think is very, very important. And the other point I would raise, and there was an example obviously in the Lloyd's market last year, for MGAs who are operating on sort of the LMA 3113 wording, that has a standard 90-day cancellation clause. And trust me, 90 days, in terms of getting cancellation to able to find alternative capacity, get it onboarded, be able to issue renewals, I think is virtually impossible. So I think it's really important that, there's an open, transparent conversation around, a runoff, if that's required, be it through a change of strategy by the capital provider or a performance problem with the portfolio. I think that as long as that's in place and that conversation is very clear, then that actually underlines and gives more stability to the MGA model.
Thank you, everyone. And yeah, no, it's a really important area that we're always seeing within the survey. And I think, yes, you touched right on the nail on the head in terms of having that kind of transparency. And I think, going forward, every year we do witness within the survey, the more kind of information, the more reassurance that the long-term agreements are kind of in place. Brokers definitely feel kind of more assured and going forward. And we can see that from many of the kind of MGAs who have kind of performed well. Those are some of the key kind of aspects of why brokers continue to work with them, because of course having that reassurance, having that stability in place is very much what brokers want, and of course want to kind of work with the kind of A star, kind of A+ rated capacity providers. So yeah, we have just 10 minutes to go. If you do have any more kind of questions, feel free to put them forward. One of the kind of last areas that I wanted to kind of explore with you guys is all about kind of information and providing that additional material to brokers. And of course, more and more kind of information is being kind of readily available. Of course, with the growth of AI and more kind of information intelligence, it's been kind of something more sought after. So we had, we asked the question to brokers, what additional material would you want from your kind of MGA partners in addition to the kind of standard key risks information? We had a range of different kind of areas that brokers put forward, and I'd love to get your kind of insights on what you feel can be done for the kind of years ahead. So, we had a broker who wanted comparison charts between them and other markets, market appetite and specialisms, minimum premiums, preferred premium range, contacts lists, key differentiators with other similar products, comparison tables against composites providing the same policy or elements of a specific policy, more details of capacity deals, renewals, information on kind of specialist training that is given, the kind of advantages and disadvantages to the market's approach, the claim service propositions and updates in line with kind of market changes. And one broker wanted to really have that information where whether the capacity is A rated and UK based, whilst another broker felt sometimes the terms provided are not kind of clear to read, and they would prefer not to kind of call the MGA to clarify terms and rather be more kind of understandable, kind of at a kind of first glance. So, in addition to, having that kind of policy summary information on the capacity providers used, what does your kind of, Karen, what's your kind of approach to the year ahead when it comes to, providing information to the brokers in addition to the key standard risks?
So, because we operate in some specialisms, we do quite a lot in terms of that thought leadership piece, and for instance, in the agriculture or the marine markets, things wider than just the products that we sell. We have set up forums with both clients and brokers to understand the challenges within the market, so we can look at in terms of cover, but also that additional support that we can provide in that specialist market. So understand your market, understand your broker and client challenges, and then respond. That's sort of the key focus. I think, across Geo is about making it simple, people understanding what those specialisms are and how they get access to them. That contact part is a massive piece of the solution, isn't it? You need to know who to speak to and how to speak to them. So making sure that that's very clear. We've got investment now on our website as well, which is, due an overhaul. So making sure that it's very simple for people to understand. But within, for example, renovations, which is one of our businesses, they do a lot of CPD training for brokers, so product knowledge, and being able to offer more of that, particularly when you're focused on specialist markets, I think is key.
Thank you very much. And Tim and Mike, what would you feel the kind of next steps are in providing some of the kind of information that brokers really want kind of in the year ahead?
Yeah, I think Karen touched on that. I think the key message here around and getting these feedback from the survey is it's all about clear communication. And I think where MGAs work really well, just touching back on where we started, is that access to people, access to decision makers, and some knowledge. So, and I think because of the flexibility and agility of MGA is able to provide that quicker, so respond quicker. So, as an example, we would have many broker discussions, broker visits, and if we find a trend or a theme that's developing around one of our products or a certain area in which we operate, that's probably going to lead quite quickly into an article that we produce or some tips that we might produce. We're getting great immediate feedback and producing that sort of content quite quickly. So it's kind of, I guess, a pathway to quick digestible content. There's a lot of kind of over engineering of marketing material, but sometimes simplicity is key. And then sort of technical training as well. What do you sort of your broker partners want? And around that is whether they need some marketing support around certain topics they're looking at, or some technical training. So I think having an MGA that's flexible in providing those elements is a real sort of thing that, as I say, the agility of an MGA provides, whereas some of our competitors in the larger organizations or the corporate company space might struggle to have that level of speed and pathway to that quick digestible content.
Thank you. Mike, any thoughts on?
Yeah, I would just add, really, it's our role as an association to obviously represent our members, our MGA members, plus obviously our suppliers and insurer members. Fundamentally, we're here to make sure that whatever tools we can help equip our members to therefore promote to their broker distribution, then that's our role, really. And we've got some examples of that in the recent survey I alluded to in 2023, and we'll continue to work with our members to ensure that whatever we can provide them centrally as an association to help them support their broker distribution, then we will do that.
Fantastic, and that feeds in nicely to the question that we just received. So in terms of the question is directed to yourself, Mike, and of course the whole panel as well, in terms of what's your best advice to get the most out of the event in March, and more specifically for Mike, what's the current confirmed delegate attendee number?
Okay, so first and foremost, to get the benefit out of it, I think we will be issuing an exhibitor list pre the event. So that will be available in terms of which will show the members and their specialisms in terms of who are exhibiting. So that will allow people to potentially target who they want to see. We also have an app, an interactive app on the day, so that also will be available as an assistance to delegates who turn up. In terms of broker registrations, I haven't got the latest figure to hand, but I know 2 weeks ago we were well above 100 already. And traditionally, we normally, because this is one of our events we do every year, traditionally we always get somewhere between 300 and 400 who will attend.
Fantastic. And yeah, we just had another question come in, so trying to get through them as many as possible. Thank you so much, everyone, for putting the questions forward today. So the question that was put forward was, do the panel feel it could be potentially slightly easier for smaller organizations to be more agile and laser focused on service, or does smaller resource put more strain on and turbulence on customer service? Question for yourself, Karen and Tim.
Yeah. Balance in it. It comes back to the service model needs to be. So I think providing you're saying true to that, I think you get pretty quick feedback when you are providing a service level, and things like the broker survey, we put a huge value on that. The survey we're discussing here, so we do get that confidence in knowing that we're getting good results, and it's quite nice to get that sort of pat on the back and think, well, let's keep it going. This is really important. We're getting the feedback here. So, yeah, I don't think the service levels necessarily drop unless you sort of allow them to, really. So I'm sure that's properly answered the question. But yeah, Karen, I mean, your view is probably similar, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. Service is key. And therefore, being able to respond quickly, and I would agree with you, Tim, that, when the service isn't there, we definitely hear about it very quickly. And so it's all hands to the pump to change that situation. But I think, we're definitely investing in our capability across our teams, because we believe that it's going to be ongoing demand for MGA services going forward.
Well, no, thank you everyone for joining us today. Really look forward to seeing lots of you on the 5th of March. And in terms of, yes, there was many areas that we couldn't get through today, but of course, please do visit the Insurance Times website, where we do break down many of the other findings of what brokers want to, why working more with MGA partners, what they want in the kind of future, the concerns for the year ahead. So please do visit the research page on the Insurance Times website. But thank you very much, Mike. Thank you very much, Tim, and thank you very much, Karen, for joining the panel today. And yeah, look, thank you for all the brokers and everyone who has been involved with the really successful Insurance Times MGA survey. And we really do appreciate your voice coming forward kind of each year. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you all very soon.